The city did not sleep. It only waited. Streetlights flickered like tired eyes, watching broken roads and broken people move beneath them. Sirens cried in the distance, not for help, but as a reminder. In this city, survival was the first crime everyone learned. Hope was rare, mercy was expensive, and power belonged only to those willing to take it. This is not a story of a hero. This is a story of a man who rose from nothing, touched everything, and lost himself along the way. This is the story of Rayan Vale. Rayan was born in a one-room house, squeezed between a garbage yard and a closed factory. His mother worked nights. His father disappeared before Rayan learned how to write his name. Hunger was his first teacher. Fear was his second. The streets became his classroom, and pain was the language everyone spoke fluently. As a boy, Rayan learned when to run and when to stand still. He learned which alleys were safe and which ones swallowed people whole. He learned that kindness came with conditions and loyalty had a price. By the age of 12, he stopped dreaming. Dreams were heavy. They slowed you down. At 15, he saw his first dead body. At 16, he stopped reacting to death. At 17, he realized something important. Fear controlled this city, and those who controlled fear ruled everything. Rayan's first crime was small: carrying packages, watching corners, running messages. He kept his head down and his eyes open. He spoke less than others, but listened more. Men twice his age underestimated him. That mistake would cost them later. The gang that took him in was called the Iron Vow. They were not kings, but they were feared enough to survive. They believed in loyalty, discipline, and silence. Break the vow, and the city would forget your name. Rayan followed every rule, not because he respected them, but because he was studying them. He watched how leaders spoke, how they punished, how they rewarded loyalty, how fear was planted slowly, like a seed. Power, he realized, was not loud. It was calm, cold, certain. Years passed. Blood was spilled. Lines were crossed. Rayan's hands grew steady in moments that broke others. He became reliable, then dangerous, then necessary. The streets started whispering his name. Not loudly, not yet. When the Iron Vow lost territory to a rival syndicate, it was Rayan who planned the retaliation. Quiet strikes, strategic disappearances, no chaos, no witnesses. The city noticed the shift before the gang did. Soon, decisions were being made with Rayan in the room. Then decisions were delayed until he arrived. Respect replaced suspicion. Fear replaced doubt. But power always demands payment. The first betrayal came from someone he trusted. A man who shared food with him, protected him once, smiled like a brother, sold information to the enemy for safety and money. When Rayan found out, he did not act in anger. He waited. Revenge, he believed, should be slow enough to teach a lesson, and quiet enough to send a message. When the betrayal was exposed, the punishment was public within the underworld. The Iron Vow survived. Rayan changed. Something inside him hardened. From that day on, he stopped believing in brotherhood. He believed only in control. The fall of the Iron Vow came quickly after that. Police pressure, internal cracks, greed, fear. Old leaders grew weak. Rayan stepped forward, not with force, but with solutions. When the dust settled, the iron vow was gone. In its place rose a new empire. It was smarter, cleaner, more ruthless. It did not chase chaos. It sold stability through fear. Businesses paid protection without being asked. Rivals vanished without warning. Politicians avoided certain streets. Police learned when not to look. At the center of it all stood Rayan Vale. The boy from the alley now owned the city's shadows. Wealth followed power. Cars, buildings, silence, respect. Rayan had everything he once lacked. Yet sleep became rare. Trust became impossible. Every smile felt sharp. Every quiet moment felt like a setup. He started seeing ghosts in empty rooms, remembering faces he erased, wondering how many parts of himself were gone forever. Still, he moved forward, because stopping meant falling. Then came Mira. She was not part of the world he built. She worked far from the streets, unaware of the crown Rayan wore at night. With her, he felt something unfamiliar. Peace, guilt, fear of being seen. For the first time, Rayan imagined a life beyond control and violence. A life where his name did not carry weight, where his hands were clean. But the city does not forgive those who try to leave. A rival faction saw his weakness. They waited, planned, struck. One night, everything collapsed. Trusted men switched sides. Safe houses burned. Money vanished. The black crown cracked from the inside. The same fear Rayan once controlled now hunted him. The city that feared his name now wanted his blood. Rayan ran, not from death, but from the truth. Every step echoed with regret. Every shadow reminded him of who he became. Loyalty failed him. Power abandoned him. The crown turned to ashes. In hiding, stripped of his empire, Rayan faced his final choice. Fight to reclaim the throne, or let it die with him. The last act was quiet. No grand revenge. No return to power. Rayan surrendered himself to the consequences he had avoided all his life. He exposed everything. Roots, names, crimes. Empires fell overnight. The city shook. The underworld burned. Some called him a traitor. Some called him a coward. Some called him brave. History would never agree. Rayan disappeared from the streets forever. Some say he died in custody. Some say he walked away under another name. Some believe redemption found him in silence. But the city remembers. It remembers a boy who learned fear, a man who mastered it, and a king who chose to break the cycle, even if it cost him everything. Because in the end, the greatest power is not ruling the shadows. It is walking away from them. The city did not celebrate his fall. Cities never do. When Rayan Vale vanished, the streets did not suddenly become clean. Crime did not disappear. Violence did not repent. Power only changed hands, like a weapon passed in the dark. New names rose. Old grudges returned. The cycle continued as it always had. But something was different. There was a silence where his shadow once stood. In the weeks after the collapse of the Black Crown, chaos spread slowly, like poison in water. Smaller gangs fought over pieces of territory. Old allies turned into enemies overnight. Deals broke. Trust evaporated. Everyone wanted to be king, but no one knew how to rule. Rayan had ruled with fear, yes, but also with balance. Without him, the city felt unstable, nervous, like a body missing its spine. And somewhere far from the noise, a man with a different name watched it all from a distance. Rayan did not go to prison as many expected. The system he exposed was too deep, too dirty. Trials would have destroyed reputations that powerful people were not ready to lose. So the city made a quiet deal. He vanished. No records, no face, no past. Just another ghost swallowed by concrete and time. He woke every morning before dawn, not because he had to, but because sleep no longer trusted him. In his new life, he worked small jobs. Manual labor, cleaning, carrying. Honest work that left his hands tired, but his conscience lighter. At night, memories came back. Faces, blood, choices. Some nights he felt relief. Other nights he felt empty. Redemption was not dramatic. It was slow, painfully ordinary. He avoided mirrors for a long time, not because he feared recognition, but because he feared understanding. The man looking back at him was older than his years. The eyes carried weight no new name could erase. Sometimes he wondered if he deserved peace. Sometimes he believed punishment would have been easier, because living with memory was harder than dying with power. Back in the city, legends grew. Stories of Rayan Vale turned larger than life. Some said he betrayed the underworld. Others said he sacrificed himself to save it from total destruction. His name became a warning and a myth. Young boys whispered it in alleyways. Old men spoke it with caution. Fear still followed the name, but now it was mixed with something else. Regret. One night, years later, Rayan returned to the city. Not to reclaim anything. Not to be seen. He walked through the streets where he once ruled. Buildings had changed. Signs were different. But the pain felt familiar. The city recognized him, even if no one else did. He stood near the alley where his childhood ended, where hunger taught him lessons no school ever could. He stayed there for a long time, listening to the city breathe. For the first time, he did not feel owned by it. He saw a group of young boys nearby, angry, lost, sharp-eyed, just like he once was. He saw the beginning of another cycle forming. For a moment, fear gripped him. Then he realized something. The city did not need another king. It needed someone to stop feeding the fire. Rayan never spoke to them, never warned them, never preached. He simply walked away. Because he understood now that redemption is not about fixing the world. It is about refusing to make it worse. Years passed. The name Rayan Vale faded from conversations, then from memory, then from history. Cities are good at forgetting inconvenient truths. But somewhere, in a quiet place, a man lived knowing he once held everything and chose to let it burn. Not out of weakness, but out of understanding. This was never a story about crime, or power, or violence. It was a story about choice, about how fear creates kings, and how courage creates endings. The city still does not sleep. It still waits. But sometimes, just sometimes, one man walking away is enough to change the direction of the shadows.